I'm going to show you a technique to cheat a little bit to make the engine start in the first pull or two. What I'm going to do is find a piece of weed or something that has a little bit of strength to it, a piece of straw. Piece of straw. It's not sharp, but it's stiff enough to reach into this little hole on the side of the carburetor. And that's a pressure relief hole. And what I'm going to do is pressurize the fuel tank, and while the fuel tank's pressurized, I'm going to push the stick in this hole for about 3 seconds. Then I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. What that will do is cause the fuel to come up the fuel line, up the carburetor, kind of like a primer, so it's ready to go. Otherwise, you're going to have about 10 pulls of the rope to get the fuel all the way up the fuel line into the carburetor. It's going to wear you out. Now, to pressurize the fuel tank, one method is to use the vent line coming out of the top of the motor. And we want to make sure the fuel tank cap is on good, so no air can sneak out. What I'm going to do is take this line, as gross as it is, put it in my mouth and blow into this hose gently and fill the tank up with pressure, and then quickly put my finger over the hole so it keeps the air in there. And while I'm holding the hole, I'll take a piece of straw and push it in the carburetor. So again, I'm going to breathe in here. Okay, got my finger over the hole. Now my finger over the hole, I'm going to come down, and don't want to take too long because the tank will depressurize, and go ahead and put my straw and hold that for 3 seconds, and you'll hear the fuel come up the fuel line. And I'm going to repeat it, do the same thing, fill it with air, come down, and the hole's on this side of the carburetor, push it in there, and go ahead and fill that up with fuel. Again, that's an easy way to fill the aircraft up with fuel, and you don't want this line to get pinched or anything, so you can kind of get it out of the way. Okay, now the aircraft will be ready to start. I just have to put the throttle to idle, out to the side, reach under the plate, and turn my ignition switches on, and pull both chokes out. Alright. Now start the motor again. You're going to give a quick pull on the rope. The motor is going to try to start with the decompression chamber obviously pulled in. It's not going to stay start. It's going to stall out because the engine doesn't have any compression. So once it tries to start, I hear the engine hit. I'm going to go ahead and remove the choke for that engine, and manually, if I have to, double check the decompression chamber is pushed in. Give it a couple more pulls and it should hit. After 3 or 4 pulls it doesn't hit, you might go ahead and re-choke it and try again, and it should hit. Once that engine starts, I'll go ahead and do the same thing over here. Keep pulling the rope through real fast until the motor tries to hit. When I hear it trying to start, and you can tell it kind of makes it easier to pull the rope when the engine's firing, I'm going to remove the choke on that side, make sure the chamber's in, and give it another quick pull or two, and that should fire up that motor. And when the motor starts, you can actually, if it tries to stall, you can actually reach down and manually give the carburetor a little gas to keep it running if it's kind of cold and being stubborn. And you give this one a little gas to get it warmed up. But once it starts, I'm going to bring the engine up to a high idle and get the temperature up to about 200 degrees on the instrument here, the number 2. And when you get above 200 degrees and nice and warm, I'm going to start the tuning process. And that's going to be a matter of using the tachometer and adjusting the carburetors, and they're going to idle around 2800 or so at idle, and about 68 to 7,000 at full throttle. You probably don't want to go over 7,000 RPMs at full power. The lower the number you go, the cooler the motor will run, but less performance you'll have. So tune it up to about between 68 and 7,000 on each motor. And again, be real careful when you tune these motors up. If the RPMs at full power are low, and what you can do is start with one carburetor at a time. And again, you want your vehicle braced against the wall or something, because you don't want to have it run you over or your hand slip into the prop. But you come down here with one throttle and just physically bring it up to full throttle slowly, and look down at the tach, and that one should be around 7,000. If not, we'll go ahead and adjust the high jets, the bottom screw, which is the high jet. If you turn it counterclockwise, it richens or lowers the RPMs. If you turn it in or clockwise, you'll make the RPMs go up. Again, the movement of the screw is extremely sensitive, so I mean your adjustments should be to where you can barely tell you move the screwdriver. And set this carburetor at full throttle to about 69, 68, 7,000 RPMs. Let it go to idle. Bring this carburetor up to power. Get it doing about the same thing on the gauge. You'll have to adjust the switch to the right or left side so you're reading the right motor. And then when you get that one close to 7,000, come down and bring the throttle up to full power and see if they're synchronized. If not, switch the switch back and forth and see which one is not within the range, and then adjust the high jet in and out just a hair. Now if the numbers start going real high and hear the engine pinging or making noise, quickly come to idle. You've gone way too lean. Back out your high jet a hair and bring it up again. You want it to kind of run a little rich when you start this process, and then screw the jet in to bring it up towards 7,000. And the only other adjustment on this is the idle stop screw, which you probably don't have to really adjust, but that's the idle screw there. That's how you tune the motor. And at idle, they're going to idle around 2,800 or 26 or 2,400, somewhere around there. Full power, they should idle, go up there at about 7,000 or so. And as far as mid-range adjustment, if you go to mid-range, they should be pretty close. If not, just go to one carburetor and give it a little bit of gas. If it sounds like they're more out of sync, then this one didn't want more power, wanted less power. So this one might need more power to synchronize. And you can make the RPMs go up a little bit by taking the low jet and screwing it in a little bit. That'll actually bring the mid-range RPMs up. And then go to full power and double check that didn't affect your full power RPMs. And you want to keep your temperatures about 500 degrees or so maximum, and about 200 on minimum.